everyone, it's Tricia McCannon, and welcome to a brand new course that I'm doing for Sacred U University. I really love this course, and I love the subject, and I know that you will too. It's called Return of the Solar Lords as we enter the cycles of light. And in this first exciting module, you're going to understand, I think, a little bit how these great solar lords come into the world between the change of the ages, between the changes of the zodiacal signs, and that how we are actually looking forward to having one of them incarnate into our world now as we end the age of Pisces and we begin the new age of Aquarius. So let's get started. We'll take a little look at an overview of the course, and you'll get this first module for free. Here we go. So what are the great solar lords? Many times in ancient literature, in paintings, in tile work, in architecture, they are depicted with halos around their head or rays of light shooting out of their heads to mark them as beings who are enlightened, who bring a message of enlightenment, and who are connected with the sun and the great central sun, and with the process of mastery and enlightenment for humanity. And of course, we see this in many depictions of Jesus, but it's not just Jesus, because we see this throughout the entire ancient world. We can call these the divine sons of God. And of course, you know, I've done a whole class on the goddess and Mary Magdalene and the divine feminine, but in this particular course, we want to mostly focus really on the divine masculine. Yes, there's a feminine Christ energy, but there's also a masculine Christ energy that comes again and again, both of these into the world in the form of different savior gods. And most of us who have been raised in the Judeo-Christian world, we just kind of know about Jesus. And of course, he's awesome, he's great. But we want to take a look in this course at many of the other incarnations of these solar beings who came to bring divine principles of enlightenment, harmony, and peace, and teach humanity the road to spiritual mastery. So one of the reasons I chose this image for introducing the divine sons of God is because there are certain symbols we're going to be taking a look at in this series that are connected with these divine avatars. And certainly the lion, the great lion of God, which is always connected with the heart and always connected with the sun, connected with the sign of Leo, the lion, is one of them. And I love this particular painting. It's absolutely gorgeous. And you can just sort of see humanity down here in its endless struggle between light and dark, and the enlightened one with the sunflowers here and the images, and then the great lion that is always connected with the heart of the matter, lion, to be lion-hearted. We even have that expression in our culture today, thousands of years later. And as you're going to see, it's linked to some of the greatest mysteries of the ages. These are the transcendent ones, meaning that they are enlightened beings who have already reached enlightenment and who have actually incarnated down here from the higher dimensions. They didn't have to come down. They don't have karma down here. They've actually come in with a mission, and their mission is to enlighten humanity. And they are linked, and many times in symbolism, with certain key elements. And we're going to be taking a look at that throughout this series. They come into the world in order to bring a message, in order to say there's a course correction needed. You know, many people in this physical world get very caught up in greed and power and vanity and ego and war and conflict and lust and all sorts of things. We can kind of look around and watch that are happening in our world today. So these are beings who come in to remind us of our divine, eternal, spiritual nature, and to remind us that we can free ourselves from these things that entrap us, all the grief and the shame and the blame, and they offer these blessings to us through their wisdom and through their words. And many times, of course, we kill them because the powers that be feel threatened by avatars that have a message that actually could free us from the bonds of all this conflict and struggle, and can allow us to see through the illusion that fame isn't gonna do it for us, and money only takes us so far, and sex only takes us so far, and greed only takes us so far. All of these are limiters to the divine illuminated consciousness that each of us holds within ourselves. And so they come to offer their gifts of illumination and wisdom. And I love this image. I actually have this on the image on the cover of my fourth book, The Angelic Origins of the Soul. And it's just so beautiful because it's really the energy of those divine solar avatars that come in. Now, in this series, which is a 6-part series, we're going to be taking a look in each of these classes at the symbology of the Shepherd Kings, and that's going to be in this first module, the legacy of the solar lords, and the renewal of the world, and how it was always known that their coming and their sacrifice, really, of coming down to this level where many times we kill them, was linked to the seasonal patterns of the year. But more than the seasonal patterns of the annual year, it's literally linked to the renewal of the cycles of time. And it has to do with giving us, let us say, the compass to be able to move forward in the next 2000 or 2160 year astrological cycle. Just as Jesus came in at the change of the ages between Aries and Pisces and gave us that eternal message of, do unto others as we would want to be done to. The kingdom of heaven is within. Forgiveness is the key. Love is the answer. These are the messages of these great saviors. So we're going to be talking in the second module about how this is linked to galactic cycles as well. The many incarnations of the solar lords. So we're going to be taking a look throughout this whole series at many of the other expressions besides the ones we're used to. In part 5, the serpent, the cross, and the Tau at the end of time, where we're going to be looking at these galactic cycles at a deeper level. And finally, in part 6, galactic awakening and the return of the Lords of Light, where we take a look at where we are now as we're crossing through the center of the galaxy, which takes about 1,000 years, and we're dead in the middle right now. We're totally aligned with that great central sun at the center of our galaxy, and consequently, we're in a place of enormous transition on the planet in terms of consciousness, governments, spirituality, and frequency, vibrational frequency. So we'll be taking a deeper look at that in part number 6. So let's begin by taking a look at the symbols of the Lords of Light. And as you see here, we've got the lion's face with the sun down below, and we've also got the zodiacal signs, the 12 signs of the zodiac imposed on his face, because these beings are linked to these vast cycles of time, and they're connected specifically to where we are now in the changing of the ages. They were known as the Good Shepherds, and they had many different titles. Certainly in Christianity, we've heard Jesus called the Good Shepherd, but most of you probably don't know that Osiris was also called the Good Shepherd. And Moses was called the Good Shepherd, and King David was called the Good Shepherd. Mithra was called the Good Shepherd. So over and over again, they have been identified by this title. And if you notice, even in this very beautiful Christianized painting, they have literally a rod. Jesus is holding a crook, and the crook and the flail will discover its deeper meanings in one of our later modules, because they're connected to this power of ascension. So Webster's dictionary defines a shepherd as a person who herds or takes care of sheep, a leader of a group, especially a clergyman or a spiritual minister or priest or priestess, someone who tends or herds or guards or leads like a shepherd. Now this may seem kind of simplistic to you, but when we think about what a shepherd is, a good shepherd is someone who takes care of their children, whether the children are sheep or they're people, and who leads them and who protects them. And of course, this is why this was always connected with the one who oversees bees, their flock. And again, in Christian paintings, even though a lot of this knowledge has been lost to us from the ancient past, some of these beautiful symbols still continue to appear in the paintings that have been passed down to us. These Hermetic symbols are many. The lion and the lamb, we certainly know from Christianity, the lamb being the pure one who's willing to sacrifice themselves, the lion being the courageous, heart-oriented leader of all creatures on the earth. The Book of Life, we're going to be taking a look at that, and we see those associations not only in Christianity, but going back to a deeper time in the ancient Egyptian world. The sign of Leo was always connected because of the lion and the sun with these avatars. The Logos, which is the blueprint for what humanity can become, the template for our divine potential. The cosmic egg, we're going to be talking about that, which is really the place where the solar lords spring from at the creation of the universe. The cross, yep, it's not Christian. It goes all the way back, much further back to the time of Tammuz and even further. The tree of life, which is always linked to both the solar lords and the divine masculine energy, but also to the Divine Mother. And in this course, we're not going to focus on the Divine Mother. If you're interested in that, by all means, take a look at the Mary Magdalene course. But in this, we're going to take a look at understanding something about the Tree of Life. And the truth is, I can do a whole class on the Tree of Life because it's such a profound subject. But we're going to take a serious dive into that in this class. The phoenix, one of the great symbols from the ancient world, the Benu bird or phoenix of the one who does come from the higher worlds, who sings their song of beauty and of course is killed and then reborn and understands that they are an eternal being. The shepherd's staff, the caduceus, the dove and the Holy Spirit, the Chi-Rho. Now, many of you won't know what that is, but I think in Module 5, we're going to be getting into the Chi-Rho, which is really connected with the Tau Cross and the end of the cycles of time and the Serpent of Wisdom. And, this is really actually how the ancients held the serpent. It wasn't really as an evil thing. It was symbolic of the activation of our DNA, our Kundalini, and our enlightenment. So we're going to be taking a look at all of that. So let's start with the lion. I love this image. Lions, those big cats, they're just so wonderful. You want to hug them, especially the big paws. I'm a cat person. I always have 2 cats. And we see down through the centuries how the lion has been used as a symbol for royalty again and again. Here we have it. These are part of the crest of Prince William, actually, and the royal house of Britain. Here we have the crown. Here we have the infinity symbol. It looks like it's a bow, but in truth, it has to do with the Vesica Piscis and the infinity. And here we have the lions flanking the crown. Here we have the lion and the unicorn. And we have these circles that overlap, creating a Vesica Piscis. This is all stylized imagery that actually goes back to Hermetic wisdom from the past. And once you understand these Hermetic glyphs, you'll be able to really look at let us say the icons or the family crest of royalty and be able to see who had the knowledge of the ancients, the knowledge of the Templars, the knowledge of the Cathars, the knowledge of the Egyptian mystery schools. For example, the unicorn is always connected with the Virgin, the divine feminine, and the lion with the divine masculine. So here we have the union of the masculine and feminine, which brings us into mastery, and the overlap between the two of them. And while we don't see the Vesica Piscis as a shape, we know that 2 circles that overlap each other create the Vesica Piscis. So, and of course, this has now become commercialized. So here's a Lion UK Prime Estate. So in the commercial world, they've forgotten a lot of the deeper meanings, they'll still conscript the imagery in order to connect themselves with, upscale royalty, nobility, or money. So, this is kind of how it goes. Now, the deeper meanings of the lion are honor, radiance because of the sun, kingship, vitality, and the moment of enlightenment. The deeper meanings of the lamb are purity, innocence, gentleness, and sacrifice. Now, these solar lords, as I said, are often associated with the sign of Leo. That doesn't mean that they have to be born as Leos, although Leos are usually pretty wonderful people. They're bright and sunny and outgoing and kind and generous. And if you have an enlightened one, they make an excellent leader and a wonderful friend, very, very loyal. Why, though, are they connected with the lion? Well, of all the 12 signs of the zodiac, it's the only sign that's actually ruled by the sun. Okay, and so other signs, like for example, Taurus and Libra are ruled by Venus. Capricorn's ruled by Saturn, Sagittarius by Jupiter, but only Leo is connected with the sun. So this association with the solar lords and the sun gods, okay, those who come to bring the message of enlightenment, is seen going back through history. And this is an image of Tammuz. Tammuz was probably his real name was Dumuzi, but he was known as Tammuz or Dumuzi. Both names are the same being throughout the Mediterranean, throughout the Mesopotamian world, throughout the African world, South Africa. He actually was said to have ruled one of the cities in Mesopotamia for something like 40,000 years. So he was one of the Anunnaki gods who was known to be kind and gentle and who brought the arts of animal husbandry to humankind, and also field and crops and growing crops. And so here we see him on the back of a lion. So we know he's a king. He's associated with that. And we see the sun behind him. So these symbols, and with crown on his head, these symbols mark him as a solar lord. Here in the Persian world, we have the same kind of symbolism in Mithra. Now, Mithra is said to be both the joining of the male and the female together. And Mithra's, spiritual worship came up probably around 4,400 years ago, 4,400 BC. He came in during the change of the age between Gemini, the twins, and Taurus, the bull. And a lot of the rites of Mithra were connected with the sacrifice of the white pure bull, and it was really said that he himself was the bull that sacrificed his life for humanity. But here we see in this stone carving, we see him as a man with the head of a lion. He's got a staff, and we're going to be talking about the staff as we go along in this series because it has to do with the rod of power, the rod of spiritual power. He's got what appear to be angel wings, 4 behind him. He's holding what is actually like a carpenter's square. And the Masons, the Freemasons, as we know, their origin goes way back to Egypt, if not even further back. And one of their symbols is the compass and the square. The square is like, a 90-degree angle, meaning, are you on the level? Are you truthful? And the compass is one who encompasses the universe with their vision. So those two together are often used in Freemasonry, literally looking like an up triangle and a down triangle, which, if you understand the symbolism, which is always multi-layered, it has to do with the path of mastery, is the passage between the balance of the masculine and the feminine. And having for Mithra to be holding with a lion's head, a square, tells us that he was no stranger to Freemasonry. He understood the architecture of the universe, and that he was holding the value of truth as the highest value. Some of these solar lords you'll see carrying a torch for enlightenment. Others you'll see carrying the symbols of masonry. Now, he's standing on a world, isn't he? And there's a big X over the world. What the heck does that mean? In Module 5, we're going to be getting into talking about the symbolism behind this X, which is connected with the Chi-Rho and the Tao and the end of the change of the ages, when as it said, we come before the Creator on that one nameless day, the day where we're able to look at all of our past records, all of our past deeds, all of our past wisdom, and see whether or not we have attained mastery. So this has to do with the end of the cycles of time in the world. And of course, what is this? It's a serpent. We see a little tail here, and we see it wound around his body. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and usually there's 6, 7. There are usually 7 turns. Here's another turn here. And this has to do with the movement, of course, of the Kundalini through the 7 chakras, up the spine. So these images are, replete with knowledge and wisdom, but, as a Hermeticist, and I am a Hermeticist because I'm an initiate of many of the great spiritual mystery traditions, and I teach those traditions, it's really great to be able to look at one of these and decode what's actually really being said. And of course, throughout all my classes, I'm teaching Hermetics, because once you begin to penetrate Hermetics, the whole universe of ancient knowledge opens up to you. Now, here is Osiris, another of the great solar lords. And we see him surrounded by, here's Anubis, who, of course, in Egypt was known as the one who invented the rites of mummification and who escorted the soul when it died through the dark tunnel into heaven, okay? But we also see this sort of Sphinx-like character here with a lion body and a human head and the feathers of truth, the feathers of Ma'at. Ma'at is the goddess of truth, okay? And we see, of course, the falcon, the lion, and the bull. These are all Hermetic symbolisms that are connected with these lords. And in Egypt, here is the hawk holding something called the Shen. The Shen is a symbol of kingship. The circle is feminine, the line is masculine, so the infinite and the finite, or masculine and feminine, when joined together, allow us to achieve spiritual kingship. This isn't just kingship in the worldly sense. This is spiritual kingship, and you can see that the falcon is holding the feather of truth over his head, representing the fact that he is aligned with the truth. And here he's holding the crook, the shepherd's crook, that we later see Jesus and Moses and David, King David, holding, and the flail, forming this X, this Chi-Rho image. So again, over here we see a lion. It looks like with a long tail, looks kind of like a panther lion, doesn't it? With a human head, with a crown of kingship, with the feathers of Ma'at. Here's the Shen, held by the falcon. Here's the Ankh, the symbol for eternal life. So these are mark Osiris as an expression of the highest order of the great spiritual mysteries in Egypt, a member of the Pantheras. The Pan, that means all, P-A-N, Thera, like Theo means God, the masculine God. Thera is the feminine God, the all God, or the all mother. So Panthera, the order of the Pantheras, or like Jesus was called Jesus ben Panthera. Ben means son of. So people who don't know think, hey, Mary had an affair with a Roman soldier named Panther or something, but that's not true at all. It marked Jesus, just like Osiris, as a high initiate within the highest order of the great spiritual mysteries. Osiris, son of the Pantheras, the All-Mother. Jesus, son of the All-Mother, or the All-God. And here we see more depictions of these, kings, these solar lords, with the blue lotus. The blue lotus was a symbol in the Nile. They extracted an extract from it, and they drank it, and it produced subtle states of higher consciousness. It's said to be very rarefied, but very subtle. Here we see the scarab beetle on his chest. This is Khepra. Khepra represents the creator, and there's a lot of reasons why, but just one of them I'm happy to share with you. The Khepra, the beetle, the dung beetle, it lays its eggs in dung, and then it rolls it into a ball like the sun. And so who can bring life from, manure but God, okay? And one of the other things that's great about Kepler is the way the back of the beetle is constructed. There's the one that splits itself in two. So the masculine divine father and mother that comes from the eternal one aligned with the sun. So, and you can see that this Kepler beetle is holding the Shen. He's actually holding the symbols of kingship. So, and here, the lion-hearted one is anointing himself with the waters of life. So, and the blue lotus. So it's all, all this is symbolism. And we see the Sphinx in the background. Here we see that the priest of Ra and the priest of Osiris, they wore a leopard cloak, the skin of a leopard, a leopard, right? That's what a leopard is, right? So Ptah and was the father of Ra. Ra was the father of Osiris. Osiris was the father of Horus. Ptah was also the father of Thoth. Okay, and then there's Nefertum. And Nefertum is more of a concept than a person in ancient Egypt. It's the concept of the young solar lord that arises from the lotus blossom. In other words, when the great cosmic egg of creation opened up into a lotus blossom, what came out of it? The first thing, there are discussions about what was the first thing that came out of it. Some say it was Ma'at, cosmic truth. Some say it was Thoth, cosmic thought. But most believed that it was this being of light, this being of divine light, like in the Hindu culture, almost like Brahm, the creator, who springs from the cosmic egg and literally brings the universe into being with its light and organizes the potential of eternal, chaos, or the plentium, puts order to that. So we can see here in this, here's Ra, the Lord of Light, sitting on his throne with the sun over his head. Okay, here's like a lotus blossom here. And here we have the priest of Ra in his leopard cloak coming to greet him. And notice this rod of power. And we'll be talking about the rods of power later in one of the, I think, module 5. So here is Nut, the goddess of the heavens. And she is, literally protecting Ra, the sun god. So it's really interesting when you start looking at this, and we see the symbolism brought over into the Hebrew teachings, because of course Moses was a higher initiate in the temples of Heliopolis, the temple of the sun, and it is referred to as On in the Bible. But we see that he, brought a lot of this knowledge out of Egypt with him, and so a lot of the same symbolism continued in the Hebrew path. And here we see it as the great Lion of God, the Lion of Judah, and he's holding a staff. And he's got actually this, looks like a Maltese cross, doesn't it? And of course, the cross, as I said, predates Christianity. And here we have him as the Lion of God with angel wings holding the book of life. And here are the Hebrew words down below. And as we're going to see, that wind up getting translated here into the Christian world. In the beautiful city of Venice that I've been to many times, over St. Mark's Cathedral, they have the same winged lion that comes right out of Egypt, okay? And then got transferred to the Hebrews, got transferred to the Christians. And what's he doing? He's holding the book of life. This is the Cathedral of St. Mark's in Venice, Italy. And here we see it also with the stars. So it's all connected with the heavens and the heavenly kingdom, with the cycles of time and the zodiac. So the lion's holding the book of life, which refers to that one nameless day, Judgment Day, basically. And it's not just the judgment like we're taught in the Christian church of you have one life and you go to heaven or hell. It's really the summation of how we've done within each cycle. And all of our many lifetimes within 2160 years, do we learn enough? Are we wise enough to graduate? And after, in the halfway point, about every 12,000 years, there's an opportunity to graduate. And then at the end of a 25,920-year cycle, which is where we are today, there's a gigantic opportunity for us to graduate from Earth School. And so this book is your Akashic Records. It's your book of life. It's where everything you've ever done or thought or been is written down. And from it, of course, we determine how far along you are in your spiritual evolution. And that's really kind of what happens on that one nameless day. And if you're not, guess what? Go back to school. You got to take the grade over if you didn't learn it and pass. Now, this book comes straight out of the Egyptian wisdom. This is the same book of life that Thoth is holding here. Now, what are we looking at? This is a tableau from the Egyptian Book of the Dead, called, by the way, the Haru, which really means the coming forth into the day, the coming forth into the light. Why? Because the ancients understood that as beautiful as this world is far more limited in its consciousness than the higher worlds. And that when we die, if our consciousness is vibrating at a higher frequency, we literally are stepping through the doorway into a higher realm of light, a world that makes this world look dim by comparison, and definitely more limited. So what's happening here in this tableau is Anubis, the psychopomp, has taken the soul who's died, the initiate here in white, by the hand, and is leading them into the antechamber of heaven. This is called, in the Egyptian teachings, the halls of Amenti. The halls of Amenti is before you get to go into heaven. This is where you kind of get to do your life review, basically. So here, the heart of the deceased has been taken out, is put in a canopy jar, and it's weighed on a scale against the feather of Ma'at, or the feather of truth. So if your heart is as light as a feather, go on into heaven. But if you have a hard heart, a heavy heart, an unforgiving heart, then guess what? You haven't learned the lessons of forgiveness and love. And so go back and reincarnate and do your lesson over. Now, if it's been a useless life, let's say a greed-filled life of lust and violence and selfishness, basically the soul hasn't learned any wisdom, has it? So consequently, in that version of reality, your heart gets eaten because the life has been completely wasted by this little creature here. And this little creature here is a mythical creature, but it represents kind of the scariest animals in Egypt. It's the hippopotamus, the crocodile, and even the lion. Those were the scariest. And so, this creature is called Amet, and it's not a real creature, but it's just to say, don't waste your life. Okay, get on with it. Do something useful. And the results are written in the Book of Life by Thoth, the god of wisdom in ancient Egypt. And then many times Horus, the son of Osiris, who represented truth and wisdom and love and joy, he will intervene for the deceased, acting as a mediator between heaven and earth. And this is one of the things we see, that these lords of light, this is another aspect of their being, is they act as mediators to say, this person, you may have messed up, but, let's give them another chance. Let's give them another shot. So here, Horus is, pleading to his father Osiris and laying the case of the initiate before his father Osiris. And here we have the 4 sons of Horus. These are 4 incarnations of the divine solar males that were known in the Vedas, also known in ancient Egypt. I talk about them in my book that I wrote about Jesus, the 4 Kumaras. And then we have the 2 aspects of the divine feminine, Isis and Nephthys, which represent lunar and solar aspects of the divine feminine who stand supporting the divine masculine. Now, I want to point out a couple things. You notice that Osiris is green here, and he didn't really have green skin. You know, sometimes you'll see him with black skin. He didn't have black skin either. Green and black were the colors of Egypt, because when the Nile rose, it drove this beautiful black silt topsoil down from the southern part when the snows melted, and it fed the fields and created greenery. So Egypt became the breadbasket actually of the Mediterranean for many, many centuries. So green for fertility, black for richness and fecundity. And you're going to see these colors used again and again in connection with these solar lords. For example, the house of David, the colors were green and black. The house of Jesus's house, the colors were green and black, because again, these colors are connected with healing, the green chakra, the heart chakra, the heart, and black, of course, being the presence of all colors. White for purity, the absence of all colors. Black for totality, you know, the dark and the light in balance with one another at the deeper level. So every one of these things we're looking at has meanings. These are the 42 assessors that the soul stands before, that judges them. And I really think these are aspects of our subpersonalities where we judge ourselves. You know, we have the critic, we have the perfectionist, we have the controller, we have the warrior, we have all these different parts of ourselves. And there's a lot to say about Egyptian culture, and in fact I've created an entire class for Sacred You on the Egyptian mystery. So if you're interested in Egypt, by all means jump into that one as well. So here's Thoth writing in the Book of Life, who told us all things are possible. Who you are is limited by who you think you are. And of course, he was the author of the original Egyptian Book of the Dead, although through the centuries it got edited and changed around. But we see again Jesus, you know, the lion coming down from Egypt, coming down into the Hebrew, coming down into the Christian with the lion and the lamb. And Jesus reminds us that he came initially as the sacrifice, as the pure, unblemished sacrifice, but that when he returns, he will return as the courageous lion, as the one who comes to be a judge of the quick and the dead. And so we're talking about the Christ consciousness that in the end of the day, all of us are meant to attain. So when we measure our lives in terms of their worth, the closer we are to kindness, love, generosity, honesty, goodness, and unity consciousness, the closer we are to achieving that. And really, in the end, it is we who judge ourselves. It is we whose higher self knows exactly how it is to be in that Christed state of consciousness, but whose lower self has forgotten when we come into the world. So he offers the keys to the kingdom, and we're going to be taking a look at those keys. And of course, the kingdom is this higher state of consciousness. It's the path of mastery. And that's what all the great solar lords, all the great avatars have come to teach. So let's take a look at what some of those keys are. And really, it's, you know, you can find them by deciphering the symbolism. And of course, I put this really beautiful image of the heart here because the heart is the key to the entire thing. So let's take a look about Leo and how this lion association is connected with the stars in Leo. Now, the brightest star in Leo is called Regulus. It's a sun about 5 times the size of our sun, and it sits right in the heart of the lion. And of course, it's thought of as the giver of life. So thus, the shepherd kings were thought of as emanations from the great central sun and bringers of enlightenment. You know, they're always associated with the light. And so as the sons of God like the sun sitting at the center of our solar system, or the sun or star of any solar system, they sit at the center of all things. So many times you'll see them depicted in a circular disc like this, in other words, the sun, this gold color, or sometimes it will be a Vesica Pisces, as marking them literally as the light of the world. We also know that Jesus picked 12 disciples, the 12 zodiacal signs. Mithra chose 12 disciples. In the Celtic lands, the chief druid had 12 senior druids that surrounded him. Over and over again, when we look back in culture, the identification of these solar lords, once they decide to start teaching, they will choose 12, marking them as the center, or the sun god that's sitting at the middle. Now here, when we see them sitting in the middle like this, or in the Vesica Pisces, and this shape, for those of you who might not know, is called a Vesica Pisces. It looks like a big almond. And of course, it's the shape of all the seeds. Whenever we plant a seed in the ground, it's the shape of the seed from which, you know, a tree springs, or a fruit springs, or a vegetable springs. It's also the shape of our eyes, the window to the soul. It's also the shape of the yoni, where the child comes out of a woman. And, you know, literally, it's the doorway between the unmanifest world of spirit and the manifest world of the physical realm. And it's also on the end of a man's phallus. It's the shape of the little Vesica Pisces, where the seed of life comes out. And so over and over again, we see Jesus contained within this shape. And it's not just Jesus. So when you go back in the ancient world, you find that this is also true, marking these beings as what's called the Cosmocrater. What's the Cosmocrater? It's the solar lord who stands beyond time. So this is a being that's so powerful and so eternal that he or she can insert themselves in between the change of the ages. They can choose when to come in. They're not bound by the wheel of karma and life and death and reincarnation. They can choose when to manifest a body, and they usually will come in these great cycles, particularly the big ones, the real heavy-duty avatars will come in around every 2,000 or 2,160 years. So in the ancient world, this knowledge was well known. We've forgotten it today. But this being that came in periodically to bring this higher message was called the Aeon, A-I-O-N, that came to usher in the Eon. Eon would be A-E-O-N. A-E-O-N. Yeah. A-E-O-N is an age. A-I-O-N is the Cosmocrater being that comes in to bring in the energy of that age. So, and you can see here, this is Mithra again, or Phanes. He's coming out of a cosmic egg. You can see the flames coming out. This is the bottom of the egg. Here's the top of the egg here with the flames, okay? He's holding a torch of enlightenment. He's got the serpent of Kundalini wrapped around him. The lion's heart, the lion's face is right here. He's got the staff of enlightenment. And what is he surrounded by? Oh, the 12 signs of the zodiac, okay? And so, and then these are the 4 directions, the 4 winds that are the 4 watchers of heaven. So all of this marks him, and you can see the snake here, the serpent coming out the top of his head, telling us again, and the angel wings. So this is a higher dimensional angelic being, a being who's already achieved mastery, who's come in to bring the message of enlightenment at the beginning of each age. And here he is as Phanes. Phanes was a Greek version of him. And here he's holding the world, and we see that X that we saw earlier. Okay, and here he has the spikes of the solar crown around his head, and here he has the rod of power. So he's the god of light. Here he is as Mithra in his lion-headed version, and it looks like some of these have been cut off. This was probably a large staff here, or this one was one of the two. But we can see the angel wings, the world, the serpent, and the lion head. So the Cosmocrater is one who emerges from the cosmic egg, and that's what this is meant to represent. And again, we can see the zodiacal signs around him here at the beginning of time when creation first started. Here, he's literally sitting in the egg, okay, which is just amazing. Now we see these 4 other symbols, and these are zodiacal signs most of us have forgotten, because in Christianity we were told that the bull, the lion, the man, and the eagle represented Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. It's not Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. That was just a way for us to put the 4 canonical gospels in association with these images that appear again. These are the 4 fixed ages of the zodiac: Taurus the bull, Leo the lion, Aquarius the man, and Scorpio the eagle. For those of you who don't know, Scorpio has 4 aspects. The lowest is the scorpion that misuses power and stings people. The eagle is the snake is the next one, who sheds their skin and raises their kundalini. The third one is the eagle, the one who gets above the picture and is able to look down and has clear vision, realizes that true empowerment is not power over other people, but it's connection with spirit and with God. And finally, the phoenix, which is the Christ energy of the one who comes to sing their song of glory, is killed, but then is eternally reborn. So these images represent the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac. In the zodiac, there's air, earth, fire, and water, and there's 3 air, 3 earth, 3 fire, and 3 water signs. What's the difference between them? In each case, there's one sign that's cardinal, which means initiating, one that's mutable, which means flexible, they can lead or they can follow, and one that's fixed. Fixed is more enduring. And there are stargates that open around this planet during the fixed ages. And consequently, we have a lot of extraterrestrial or higher dimensional contact during this time. And it has to do with the passing of our solar system through the galactic equator. So where are we now? We're at the end of the age of Pisces, aren't we? And we're entering the age of Aquarius, and we are aligned with the center of the galaxy, and we're going to be aligned for probably another 500 years or more. So we will be well into the age of Aquarius during that enlightenment. So even though we've lost the thread of the plot and a lot of these Christian images, we're still having the same conversation. It's about the change of the ages, it's about the zodiac, and it is about the aeon or cosmocrater that emerges from the cosmic egg that can insert himself into time. So here he is emerging from the same cosmic egg. Just really incredibly beautiful. And this is from St. Petersburg, Russia, and it's one of those beautiful hand-painted ones I've been through. Turkey and some of that area, and the churches, the Greek Orthodox churches, they're just so beautiful. But I think this was really gorgeous. So this one, again, we see Jesus emerging with what it looks like, the book of life, right? That's kind of what it looks like. And here we see the Chi-Rho symbol. Very interesting. And here we see the cross, even within the halo, representing those 4 cycles of time. Here again, this is a fresco from Italy. Here he's in the cosmic egg. Here we have the same thing. Here's our eagle, here's our man, here's our, that's our bull, and that's our lion, and they're winged here. But it's the same conversation, isn't it? This is from Turkey, very, very beautiful. The Visca Pisces. Here we have the shepherd's crook. And here is a Chi-Rho at the top, which we'll be getting into later. So here is a cathedral, St. Cecilia in Paris again, this incredible Visca Pisces. So every time we see this in the circle where the sun is, or the Visca Pisces, what is it saying? It's marking Jesus, like aeons or solar lords before him, as the Cosmocrater or the Atom Cadman. What's the Atom Cadman? It's a concept within the, I think, Freemasonry path of basically the first illuminated human. In ancient India, they called it Sat Nam. Sat means holy, Nam means name, the holy name, the first one named, the first child, the first to emerge from the cosmic egg, who saw the universe and created the universe with their light, and whose light organizes the universe into structures that we can understand and then participate in. And this is, of course, the divine nature that all of us have within ourselves, and that we are called to bring forth in our journey in the lower worlds. Here is the cosmic egg, again shaped like the Vesica Pisces, and of course here they've made it quite stylized, okay, with the shepherd's crook. Here we see it again. Here it is again. So they're the solar lords that are the cosmocraters that oversee the world. And this one's pretty clear. He's coming out of the sun. Here's God the Father. This would be Mary, probably. This is maybe John the Beloved, or maybe John the Baptist sitting around him. And, you know, here's got to be the disciples and so forth. And here's the descent of the dove or the Holy Spirit. And we keep seeing these books of life, don't we? Keep reminding us that what we do matters. It doesn't just matter today. It matters, you know, in eternity. They're always linked to the wisdom of the great central sun. And so again, we see these solar images, and they're showing this, the book of life. How did you do? Here we have the eagle. Here we have the man. Here we have the, looks like down here, it's got to be the bull and the lion, okay, the 4 ages. And here's the Chi-Rho being held within the globe. So it's really interesting once you begin to understand what you're looking at. Now here's the Tau cross, and we're going to get into the Tau cross in a later discourse. But we even have the piercing of his side, not looking so much like a wound, but like a Vesica Pisces with an eye in the middle. It's just so interesting, isn't it? But again, you know, linking him as a literally an emanation from this great solar energy as a cosmic Christ. And most of us, you know, a lot of the ancient artwork was destroyed. It's really hard to find it because the church didn't want any competition. And so when they discovered, you know, that yes, you know, there have been lots of earlier versions of this, maybe not as perfect as Jesus was or as pure, but they still came to do the same job for their age. Now we're going to take a look at the Sphinx and the pyramids and how they're linked to the cycles of the sun. And as we get deeper into this whole workshop, we're really going to go into this in greater depth, particularly in modules 5 and 6. But I want to touch on it in this first module, just so you get a little deeper clue. So the Sphinx, of course, was built by great masters of wisdom, Thoth, Ra, Ptah, that really knew about these cycles, these deeper cycles. They were very long-lived, the Anunnaki gods, and consequently they charted the cycles of the zodiacal seasons over vast periods of time. And all the ancient world had astronomers that were incredibly knowledgeable. The Chaldeans, the Sumerians, the Babylonians, the Chinese, the East Indians, the Mayans. In fact, the astronomers were probably the second highest ranked people in the entire civilization. And it's because charting the stars was really important. Why? Because they understood about these things that we've forgotten, which is the change of the ages. So the Sphinx is what? It was built by the masters of wisdom, said to house one of the 3 halls of records that exist. One other is in the Yucatan, and another one is said to have gone down below the ocean near the area around Bimini. And I have whole presentations on that I've done. But these, the Sphinx is said to literally be protecting these secrets. And of course, how you entered the Sphinx was a doorway underneath what is now a stela here, put in by Thutmose. And literally, this is the heart of the lion, isn't it? So in order to undergo these initiations, you entered the heart of the lion, and then you had to go down to the hypostyle halls that are hidden in the limestone bedrock and the granite bedrock below all of this. So the Sphinx's body is composed as a lion, and of course the head is the head of a human. right? So it's linked to the age of Leo and the age of Aquarius. Well, interestingly enough, these two ages are 180 degrees apart. They're not 90 degrees. The ones at the 90 degrees would be Taurus and Scorpio. These are 180 degrees. What happens during these ages that's so critical? We're going to be getting into this at a much deeper level later in this module, but briefly, Leo, the sun, is about the power of enlightenment and love and the heart, and also kingship. And what is Aquarius? That's the age we're entering now. It is an age said to be ruled by not just air, but by ether. In other words, it is a pouring down of the wisdom of the divine from heaven. And we see it depicted here as a beautiful woman. Here it is as a man or a woman, hard to say, but it's always connected with the stars and the pouring down of galactic knowledge. In other words, the stargates open. Higher frequencies come in to bathe the planet. Our space brothers return to enlighten us. So information comes in just as we're seeing it's happening in this modern age. And here we have the same kind of thing. Here's Aquarius pouring down from the Holy Grail, pouring down from this cup, the wisdom of knowledge going into Pisces here. Here's Capricorn, the goat, okay? So, you know, you can sort of see. So this is all about the download of higher frequency information bathing the earth, which is what's happening to us today, raising the frequency. Now, again, I'm just going to give you a little preview about this deeper conversation. So what happens is, as we go around the center of the galaxy, we don't just go around like a flat record player. We actually go up and down like a sine wave. So 12,000 years, give or take, 12,600 years ago, something like that, we actually were coming from above the galactic equator, and our solar system was descending below the galactic equator. And then Atlantis fell. And then that was about 11,600 years ago, 700 years ago. So, you know, roughly 12,000 years ago, Atlantis fell as we crossed below this. And we moved into a time of kind of darkness. And the mystery schools were established all over the world to preserve the knowledge and to make sure it wasn't misused. And this is because during the age of Atlantis, many wonderful things happened. We reached a high pinnacle of consciousness, but in the end, we misused our science. Just as today, we can notice that science is being used in constructive ways, but also destructive ways. So now where are we? Well, now we have come from below the galactic equator up through, and now we're aligned with the center of the galaxy, and we're beginning the upward movement. So we're actually in the mouth of the snake, or the mouth of the dragon is how the ancients looked at it, and we come into alignment with the center of the galaxy. Now this is a little easier way of explaining it. You can see here the sine wave, where we drop below the galactic equator. So everything we think of as history has happened in this lower wave. And for, you know, many thousands of years, we were kind of like we were having to recover from the Great Flood. And then, you know, about 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 years ago, we seemed like we kind of got it all together and we started functioning. The age of Taurus would have been happening right about here, okay? And now we've moved through the age of Aries, which was about war. We've moved to the age of Pisces, and now we are here at the beginning of the age of Aquarius. And so the points where we cross the galactic equator are Aquarius and Leo. The places where we're at the lowest or the highest are Taurus and Scorpio. So this is the cycle. Okay, so we're in this upswing. So we're at a critical time that only happens about every 25,920 years. That's a big deal. It's like graduation time, huh? So here in the Christian world, we retain this imagery, but we lost the knowledge. Here's the Taurus, here's Scorpio, here's Leo, and here's Aquarius. And you can see, you know, the churches said, hey, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. But that's not really what this means. you know, I think that the church had all this information in the beginning, but I think somehow it got lost or hidden, or it became known only by the elite, and then eventually after time it was forgotten even by them. Here we have a tarot card, and we can see the same conversation. Here's the bull, the lion, the man, and the eagle. So the four fixed ages. Here's the Visca Piscis. Here, the eye and the eye of God, sending the light of the sun down. Here, these rays to awaken humanity. Okay, as she dances with the serpent. So the serpent in this case is not an evil thing. As we've been taught, it's the Kundalini life force. So what do we do with it? Do we stay stuck in our lower three chakras and just, you know, it's all about rape and pillage and, you know, destruction and ego and domination and territorialism? Or do we raise that Kundalini up, and do we enlighten ourselves, and in the process have an opportunity to pass through the eye of the needle, as Jesus would say, you know, pass through the eye of the needle in order to attain the higher consciousness. And so the ancient astronomers really knew all this. And, you know, it's us that are having to remember today. And this is one of the reasons why I teach these courses. I am an initiate and a student of these great mysteries. And consequently, you know, it's time to pass them on for us today so we understand what's going on. Now, they understood that human consciousness is affected by these ages. In other words, the entire earth is bathed by the energies that are active of these ages at the time. So in other words, somebody born in the age of Taurus really might think differently from how we think today, because the field that was bathing the planet at that time is different. People born in the age of Aries, my goodness, if you just look back from about, you know, 2150 BC to about you know, the time of Jesus, it was war, and more war. It was just lots of war. You know, the Assyrians fighting with the Babylonians, with the Persians, with the Hebrews, with the Egyptians. It was just lots of war. Alexander the Great conquering the world. And of course, you know, in the age of Pisces was meant to be a peaceful age, but unfortunately the Roman Empire, which was a military might of a surpassing power, wound up conscripting Christianity, and then they sent their military forces out to murder people that weren't kind of going along with their particular agenda. And so unfortunately, a lot of the messages of Jesus got hidden, a lot of the messages of the aeon of our age. We still have some of those messages, fortunately, today, but this is one of the reasons why I write the books and teach the classes that I do, because I think it's important when these great avatars come in to find out what they had to say and to pay attention to it. So one of the reasons I'm showing this is because when the Sphinx was built 12,000 years ago, or at least 12,000 years ago, it was facing the age of Leo, and the age of Aquarius was at its rump. Today, what's happening is the Sphinx is facing the rising, and this is the heliacal rising of the constellation each spring. This is how we mark what is bathing our planet. Every spring on March 23rd, if we see where the sun's rising and go look at the celestial backdrop behind it, there is a new zodiacal sign coming up. And it takes 72 years for us to pass through 1 degree of that sign. All these degrees, all these signs are about 30 degrees wide. So if you do the math, 72 years times 30 degrees, that's how we come up with 2160 years. So each one of the signs is roughly 2100 years fat. Now in truth, some of them are a little shorter, like Aries was a little narrower, Pisces is a little fatter. So as a result, they come in at slightly different times. But roughly speaking, where we are is right in that edge between the end of Pisces and the beginning of Aquarius. And the Theosophists say that we entered Aquarius in 1939. So if you add 72 years to that, we come up to 2011. So 2012 would have been the very first year of us moving from 0 degrees of Aquarius to 1 degree of Aquarius. And I'll be talking about this in more depth later in this series. But this is really important because the Sphinx is the guardian of the secrets, the guardian of the Hall of Records, that literally the two things it's made of are a man, Aquarius, and a lion, Leo, saying, pay attention to these two ages. When we have the age of Leo coming in, we're crossing the galactic equator going down. When we have, when we're facing the age of Aquarius, we have the age of Aquarius coming in, and we are crossing the galactic equator going up. These are gigantic portals that mark the beginning of a new cycle and the end of an old cycle, which is where we are now, or the halfway cycle through the two, which is where we were when Atlantis fell 12,000 years ago. So it's telling us that when we're aligned with the great central sun, our world awakens once more. And that's really exciting, because then the secrets can be known. People like me can incarnate on the planet, and we can teach this wisdom. People like you can awaken to the memory that your soul probably already has from earlier incarnations, and you can use this wisely to help to further and create a better world. So thus the Sphinx becomes the key to understanding these great cycles of time. And of course, it was a protector of the mysteries, and you had to enter through the heart of the lion in order to even access these mysteries. So 12,000 years ago, it marked this time of reckoning upon the earth. And of course, you know, even though we had done pretty well for thousands of years, we fell into greed and power, the usual, and we got wiped out. So this is when Atlantis was destroyed, and we fell below the equatorial plane of the galaxy. Isn't that just a beautiful image? Just so gorgeous. Beautiful. And then we fell into a slow declining darkness and a time of forgetting really who we are. And now we're at a time of reawakening, and that's really the good news. And it's one of the reasons, again, why I teach these classes, because it's time for this knowledge to come forward. Now, in Egypt, there was this really interesting character. I really love this character. He's called, sometimes they call it the lion Aker, okay? But together it becomes rowdy, this whole symbol. And this represents heaven right here. That's what this hieroglyphic represents. This represents the sun. It's the balance of the sun. Between these 2 points where the Sphinx points to Leo and points to Aquarius. So the meaning of the word rowdy is yesterday and tomorrow. In other words, the past cycles long ago and the cycle that we're going to enter now. So this glyph is really all about the discovery of the change of the ages. So, and the Sphinx acts as the lion and the keeper of the secrets. And in ancient Egypt, of course, these great lions were honored. In fact, they were raised as cubs. They were raised by the priest and the priestesses. They many times wound up sitting on the sides of the kings or the queens because they could smell fear. So when people came in and they were lying in front of the judge, you know, the lions would start to growl, and it would be a clue to the judge or the pharaoh that, hey, you know, this person's not on the level. So they were deeply honored. And they, as I said, they many times would flank the pharaoh. Here we see the crook, the shepherd's crook, and the flail. Again, here's the Visca Pisces with the cross in the middle. Unbelievable. Way back in Egypt. So the priests of the solar lords wore these pelts of the leopards, and here we see them close up. And it marked them as initiates of the secrets. And there were, of course, certain gods or goddesses that had the cat heads. Bast and Sekhmet are the two that we probably know the most. Bast was a goddess of joy and love and dance and music and poetry. She was a goddess of beer and marijuana. And so, you know, they had a big festival to her every year. 70,000 people came down the Nile on barges and partied for a week. And then Sekhmet was a fierce defender. She was a healing goddess and a warrior goddess. And again, we see these symbols of eternal life. We see the blue lotus stylized here in the staff. We see the sun, and we see the opening of the third eye. So all this is saying, if you wish to attain eternal life, you know, to connect with that lotus blossom that opens at the beginning of time, if you wish to become enlightened and open your third eye, follow the path of the heart. So all of these symbols are giving us a message. And it would be good for us to remember these messages today, because really they're perennial. these are eternal messages that all of us need to remember, and they are keys on the path to enlightenment. So that ends our first module. I hope you enjoyed it. And of course, there's a lot more coming up. I hope you'll join us for part 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. In part 2, we're going to be talking about the legacy of the solar lords and the renewal of the world. And again, we have these really beautiful images because these solar lords have incarnated in many cultures across the world in many time periods. And we're going to be taking a look at just who some of these were and the messages that they brought. So thank you so much for joining us. Hope you'll take the class and enjoy it. And until the next time, thanks for joining us. It's Tricia McCannon signing off.